All right, everyone. Welcome to this new video. Today, I'm going to show you some of the um, subdivision modeling tools that are new in Gravity Sketch. They are still in beta, so they're still not fully developed, and there's probably some functionality and features still coming. If you do give this a try and use the tool, it'd be cool to go check out the Discord channel. It's a good way to get in touch with the developers, give some feedback on the tools, and kind of request features and functionality that you might want. So I'll link to that in the description below. First, I'm going to cover a couple ways to create subdivision data within Gravity Sketch. The first one is using the subdivision tool, primitive shapes, down here in the primitives panel. You can see here on the top right, there's this subdivision object beta. When that's toggled off, that means you're not going to be working in subdivision, so you can select any of these primitive shapes here. When that is toggled, you'll see these get grayed out. So you can create subdivision objects using the primitive cube, torus, plane, sphere, and cylinder. Today I'll just use the cube to demonstrate this. So once that's active, just come into the scene here and drag out a cube that you want. You can grab it and move it and scale it just like any other object in the scene. But the biggest difference is when you go to edit it, hover over it with your grip sphere, hit edit, and you'll have this new edit panel for subdivision objects. You've got restrict face movement. When you click that, it will move the face constrained to the normal angle of that face. The next one is auto select loops. So I'm first just going to add a loop. When you click that, you hover over that and it'll grab the entire loop, right there. So you can manipulate that in any way. And then you have your baked mirror. That's if you want to, if you start modeling symmetrical and want to change the other side, you can click that to edit this independent of this side. And then here you have your subdivision levels. You'll use this to toggle it on and off. So that's your first level of subdivision. This is your second level, and that's your third level. And then you have symmetry right here. I typically work in 3 subdivision levels. It gives the smoothest result. If it can go up to 4, that'd be great, but that would be probably a performance hit on some of the machines out there. I'm going to turn these off just so I can grab these individually. You'll notice here that I can either grab an edge, a vertice, or a face. Turn that. That was the constrained movement on, but here you can grab that face and move it any which way. To get to this smart selection, on your right hand here you'll have that blue triangle with the yellow triangles next to it. If you push the joystick left or right, it'll change the mode. So now we're in face selection. I'll hit it one more time. Edge selection. One more time is vertice selection. So now you won't be able to grab the edges or faces unless you're in that mode specifically. I typically work in the smart mode, so I can pick any of them and I just decide on the fly what I want to move, depending on what it is I'm manipulating and stuff like that. I do toggle between these quite often, just to turn the smooth on and off. Be careful, there are a couple times I've hit the baked mirror instead of on and off, and undo does work, but sometimes it's nice to just be aware of that and careful of it. So manipulating subdivision data or subdivision modeling, there's a lot of theory and good practices to get into. I'm not going to cover them in this video. It would be a lot longer video, but a couple things to keep in mind are try and keep quad surfaces, so 4-sided polygons. And when you add loops, so what I'm going to do here is add a loop. If you want to create tension or a sharper line, kind of like these ones here, what I'm going to do is hover over the edge that I want to add the loop in, like around this way, and half pull on the trigger, and I'll be able to slide the edge loop anywhere I want on this model, and then full pull to commit to its placement. I'll add another one here. So you can see in its smooth mode, it's now sharper in that area. So if I manipulate these points here, it creates like a radius to the model, and I can add another one here, and you can see it starts to flatten out the top there. I can add one to the bottom. So that's subdivision modeling. In essence, it's smoothing between all of the points to create continuous geometry between all of them. The nice thing is you can manipulate these points to keep kind of curvature. You don't have to worry about tangency and breaks and stuff like that. So it's pretty nice to get organic fluid surfacing. So you can see here, I can start pulling these points out, and you can really have fun with it, but you can also run into issues with topology and stuff depending how you start out. But that's how you create from a primitive and start manipulating and creating subdivision geometry. You can delete faces and start extruding edges. So if you want to create a different shape there, and then these vertices will automatically snap. Once you get close to another one, you'll see it turn a dark, like the circles will be dark, and then once you let go, they'll become gray again. Oh, not that. So you'll see they'll become gray once they're connected together. So you can see you created a hole there. You can start pulling out more. You can fill that hole like that. Maybe grab that face and extrude it and scale it in. Grab it, scale it in again, and then we can add a loop here, maybe on this side, to really start to kind of tighten up those edges. So you can see it creates that shape there. Let's turn off contour. So you can kind of see the detail and stuff you'll start to get. This is one of the reasons I kind of want one more level of subdivision, but just to get rid of some of that faceting, but again, performance and stuff like that. But this is perfectly fine. This object is actually pretty big, so compared to the car. Anyway, the next way you'll create subdivision surfaces is using NURBS geometry. So if you create a surface using precise mode here, let me pull up my layer. I've got the sketch here I can make a surface from. So say I make a wheel arch using that surface tool there. You can see it creates that. Let's just hide the sketch. This is a traditional NURBS surface that's made using Gravity Sketch's original tools. You can see you can grab those loops and stuff like that. But what I'm going to do is convert that to a subdivision model. So you'll see it keeps the vertices in about the same place and keeps a nice, a similar surface there. And then you can start manipulating this geometry by pulling out faces, connecting vertices, adding loops, all sorts of stuff like that. So that's one way to create like a nice radius along the top of that wheel arch, is to add a loop there and there. Actually, one thing I'm going to do, I don't like how that turned out. I'm going to turn on the auto select loop and grab that one and then just hit delete. And it got rid of the spans between there. One thing it did do is it leaves this vertice down here. So I won't be able to add a loop into a 5-sided polygon there. That's what that's creating, or even a 3-sided. So if you wanted to add a loop and it's not doing it, see, I'm trying to do it here. That's because this end still has another vertice. It won't do it, even if it was a triangle. Say I merge those, it won't do it. So you want to be conscious of where you're trying to add those loops. So what I'm going to do, oops, we'll just delete that, turn that off. Just add another, pull that out there. So now you can see they're all 4-sided. I can add that loop here. We'll put it on this side. That way I've now got edge loops on either side of this. So when I smooth it, you'll see it creates a nice tight edge there that you can then manipulate and create more from there. It's good for character lines and stuff, just like these ones here. On this body, you can see that's what I've done there, is added loops on either side of this character line to give it a nice tight crisp edge, and then it terminates into this kind of four-sided. It started out as a triangle, but then once you split from here to up there, it's a nice four-sided. So that's how you can get a nice tapered out feeling to some of these character lines. So that's the next way to do it, is is from NURBS data. The next way you create subdivision data is by importing it. You can make it in an external software like Modo or Maya or Cinema 4D, whatever you want. Just make sure you're trying to make quad data. It'll struggle a bit if it's triangles or n-gons, or five-sided polygons. So again, good practice to just do four-sided stuff. So what you're going to do is come to your prefabs and come to your import models. And I believe I called this SubD wheel arches. And then you'll just want to pay attention when you're exporting it, what scale you were working at, which axis is up, and then the mirror plane. I'm pretty sure this is correct. So then I'll just grab this object, put it in this blue box, and it should put it somewhere on this side. I was probably working the opposite direction of this in Modo, but either way, that's now brought in, so you can grab it and hit edit, and then you'll have mirrored, so that'll put it on that side, and then convert to SubD. So now you'll see that there, and now when you grab it and edit, you'll have all the same points and edges and faces that you do with any other subdivision object. So you can start grabbing points and edges and pulling them out. One nice thing is, you'll see here when I pull it towards the symmetry plane, those will turn into squares, those vertices. That means they are welded over the mirror plane. Oops, let's move that guy. So if I add a couple more loops here, move some of these, you'll see once you're smoothed, put it there, on, on, that for some reason is not welding. Anyway, you'll see that it's smooth across your symmetry plane there. So that's how you get some of this stuff through here, your curvature across your symmetry plane. Let's just quickly see why this is not welding. Oh, okay, that's why it's wrong. So you can see it's not welding to this because it's not creating four-sided. I was just skipping over that one. So put that up there. I'm actually not a huge fan of the Quest controllers. That's what I'm using, is the Quest with the Oculus Link, which works surprisingly well. The responsiveness of the controllers is not the same as the original Rift. I think the buttons are a little cheaper. So I tend to grab something and go to weld it, and then moves a little bit as I let go of the button and stuff. So that's just something to be aware of and conscious of when you're welding points. Yeah, see, like that one. You can, oops. Yeah, sometimes you'll have to zoom in just so you make sure you grab the one vertice. But anyway, that's how I pretty much built this entire car. I started with a wheel arch. Actually, let's just move this back and up. That's how I pretty much started with this car. I made that surface from those sketch lines. Let's do that one more time. Surface, grab. I'm actually just going to delete this row there. Convert to SubD. Knock that down and then grab it. I'll just toggle that, and then I would just grab these edges and extrude here, and just kind of eyeball where some of these points are going to go, like where they might land on this curve. I'm hoping at some point we'll get some snapping to the actual spline of the curve. That would be nice to control some of the edges there. Or if you can, right now you can't actually combine two separate subdivision objects. So say I made that one, and then we'll just just use as a plane here, and then this plane, like that's another subdivision object. You can't merge them at the moment, so that's something to be aware of while you're building. Just kind of plan out building from one object. Eventually, I think it'll be added where if you had multiple surfaces, like say I made a surface between these curves here, let's do full curve. Right, I can make these nice big patches, get some of the curvature into it, convert this to a subdivision, and then start welding and bridging between them, because that gave me a nice surface there. Hopefully that'll come in the future. I know it's been requested and they've talked about it. Hopefully that'll be there. But right now, this is just how I've been building, is just extruding out all these points. We can do this to grab that whole row. It does add, you can see it does that one, it adds a little kick to this one here. I'll just delete that point and move that, weld those two, and then start manipulating these points. We'll add loops here like we did before. I'm going to delete that. We'll delete that. Pull out one more surface here, and then add that there. So that'll give you a little nicer radius over the wheel arch. Let's do that here as well. We'll just drag this and add one here. Again, when you smooth it, you see it gives a nice crisp line there, and then you can come in and manipulate. You'll have to be careful that you grab both vertices or both loops, so you can move them together. That's where edge weight would be nice, just so you're only grabbing one loop. That's also another feature that's been talked about, so we'll see when that gets there. Again, this is beta, so it's still under development, but give it a go. Get on the Discord and talk to the developers. I'm sure they'll be glad to hear from you. So yeah, that's really all I've got. Oh yeah, one tool before I forget is when you're editing your object here, you'll see on your right hand, underneath the undo button, the hammer and the paintbrush there. If you hit that, it brings up this other tool panel. It's got this smoothing sphere and this knife. The smoothing sphere is pretty good. It kind of it's like sculpting. It'll average between all the vertices there, so you can see it's kind of smoothing them out. So if you're doing something a little more organic, maybe a character or something, that's what that's doing. So it could be good for automotive, but maybe it might soften things up a little bit too much. So that's that tool there. And then this is the knife tool. Let's just turn that off. So this is if you wanted to cut geometry. Sorry, I'm just going to delete this. Just delete this piece here. Oh crap, that piece. So if you wanted to slice geometry without adding an entire loop, that's what this is for. It's the knife tool. So you can kind of put it anywhere and start adding your own loops. Kind of, so if you're trying to change the direction of your edge flow or something, this is going to be very useful for stuff like that. When you're starting to add detail and stuff like that. So that's all that does really, is cuts the mesh. So that's that tool palette. There's probably going to be more tools put on here at some point. So we'll see how that goes in the future. I think that's pretty much all of the tools. Yeah, volume. Actually, the stroke tool. If you come to the ribbon stroke there, we'll make that big. If you draw that out, you can also convert the ribbon stroke to a subdivision. So that's kind of nice, that one there. And then, what am I forgetting? Oh yeah, the fall off tool, kind of fall off selection, I guess we'll call it. When you're in edit mode of a mesh, if you use your grip and just pull, don't hover over anything, just in the air, grab that and push your joystick up or down. Actually, we'll make this bigger so you can see it. If you pull down, you'll see that secondary sphere inside your grip sphere kind of show up, and you can make it really small or really big. So now when you hover over vertices, you can see that when that purple sphere intersects vertices, it's going to influence the ones in the middle of that purple sphere more than the ones towards the outside, like these ones that are kind of transparent. So when you grab them, it kind of does a fall off effect, like a spherical fall off to these vertices. So it could be good for kind of bulging up an entire hood here. Let's make that a little bit smaller, but we want the fall off we want to affect these ones in the center more and have it fall off to the ones on the outside. So you can kind of do that with bigger areas. Again, it'll be good for manipulating, like the front of a vehicle or something like that. Maybe you can stretch it, or like something more organic. It might be useful for that as well. So yeah, those are all the tools I've got for you. Again, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll try and do some more, as these tools develop, and maybe more in-depth kind of tutorial. More in-depth tutorial on subdivision modeling for automotive use. Yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.